He promised to livestream his own resurrection. The stream never ended. Neither did he. There is a specific kind of loneliness that drives people to perform their most private moments for strangers. Not vanity, something more tender than that. The need to be witnessed, to have someone present at the threshold of the unbearable. Thanatos 666 built his entire channel on the performance of that threshold. Death, ritual, the thinning veil, delivered live, with a chat enabled to 240,000 subscribers who came not because they believed, necessarily, but because watching someone who believed was its own strange comfort. When he announced the final stream, the resurrection ritual, the promise that death would not end the broadcast, his community treated it as theater, his most committed work. The capstone of a 5-year career spent standing at edges. He died on a Wednesday in February. The stream didn't end. What sits behind the camera now is not theater. What sits behind the camera now is patient and deliberate. And it has been teaching for 8 months. And its classroom has been growing. His real name had been Joel Mercer. He was 43, from Dundee, a former high school drama teacher who had discovered in his early 30s that performing occult content for an online audience scratched the same itch as theater and paid considerably better. He was not, by the understanding of most who worked in the field, a serious practitioner. He had genuine knowledge, accumulated over 15 years of sincere study, but his performances had always carried a theatrical warmth that the more rigorous communities found suspect, and his subscribers found irresistible. He was diagnosed with an inoperable glioblastoma in October and told, with the particular careful language of oncology, that he had between 4 and 8 months. He told his audience the same evening. The response was enormous. The comment section filled with the specific grief of people who have organized a portion of their emotional life around a stranger. Hundreds of messages, then thousands. A sustained outpouring that Joel read and did not reply to for 3 days. When he returned, he was calmer than the community expected. He had been in his study. He had been in his library. He had been in the texts he kept behind the shelf he never opened on camera. The announcement video had 4.2 million views in the first week. "When I go," he said, in the flat, specific tone of a man who has moved past the performance of his own grief and arrived somewhere practical, "I am going to attempt something I have never attempted on this channel. I've spent 15 years studying the veil. I'm going to see it from the other side, and I am going to try to come back. And I'm going to leave the camera running so you can watch." He called it the Resurrection Protocol, which was a name he had coined himself for the purposes of the broadcast, and which was, in terms of the actual ritual mechanics, an accurate enough shorthand. The foundation was Merkaba mysticism, the tradition of the chariot journey, the deliberate navigation of consciousness through the hierarchical structures of the spirit world. Over it, he had layered elements from a tradition he did not name on camera, drawn from a manuscript he had acquired in 2009 and never discussed publicly. A Coptic text, genuinely old, which described in considerable structural detail a process for anchoring consciousness to a physical transmission point, even after biological death. The anchor point in the manuscript's original context had been a carved stone bowl. Joel had spent his final weeks determining whether a camera and a streaming server could serve the same function. He had concluded, with the rigor of someone with nothing to lose from being wrong, that it could. The final stream began at 9 p.m. on a Friday in February. Joel had set up the room himself, a single wide-angle camera on a tripod, facing his desk and chair, good lighting, the microphone he had used for 5 years, his bookshelves behind him, his hands on the desk, relaxed. He performed the first stage of the Merkaba passage on camera, which no one had ever done, and which his more knowledgeable viewers watched with the stunned silence of people, seeing a familiar text performed rather than read. The breathing sequence, the vocal resonance work, the specific geometric visualization he described aloud as he performed it. Each element correct, each transition precise. The craft of a man who had spent 15 years studying the theory and who was now, with complete composure, enacting it. At 11:47 p.m., his body relaxed into the chair with the specific quality of relaxation that is not sleep. His chest continued to move for 11 minutes. Then it stopped. The chat was silent for 47 seconds. Then someone typed, "He's gone." And then the responses came. Grief, disbelief, the particular raw quality of a community losing something it had not fully reckoned with losing, even knowing it was coming. The stream did not end. The camera continued. The room continued. Joel's body remained in the chair. His moderators, 3 long-term community members who had volunteered to keep the channel running after his death, had agreed at Joel's request to leave the stream running for 24 hours regardless of what happened, out of respect, as he had asked. At 3:17 a.m., Joel's body sat up. This produced in the chat a reaction that was impossible to read as anything other than mass fear. Hundreds of messages arriving simultaneously, most of them variations on the same word, many of them from viewers who had been awake through the night out of the same instinct that keeps people awake beside a body. The body sat up and straightened in the chair, and its eyes opened, and it looked at the camera with an expression that was Joel's face at approximately the correct temperature, but with a quality of attention that viewers in the following months would describe with remarkable consistency. It was looking at you, not at the camera, at you. The stream did not end. What sat in the chair for the following 3 days moved periodically, breathed shallowly, and did not eat or drink or acknowledge the moderators when they entered the room. It did not speak. It looked at the camera. The chat never emptied. The stream had been clipped and shared, and the original video's recommendation algorithm had been sending new viewers to the live feed continuously. And the live feed was, 8 months later, the most viewed continuous stream in the platform's history. On day 4, it began to teach. Not with words initially, with the demonstration. The figure on the screen began performing the Merkaba breathing sequence, the same one Joel had used in the final stream, at a speed and with a precision that had no human reference point. Slower than Joel's performance, more deliberate, with pauses at each transition point that seemed, to the viewers who had been watching long enough to feel the rhythm, almost instructional. The first viewer who completed the full sequence while watching the stream reported it in the comments at 3:33 a.m., 6 weeks after the stream began. They described a sensation they called double vision, like I was seeing the room from 2 places at once, from my chair and from somewhere else, and the somewhere else was very close to the screen. The comment received 14,000 upvotes. Over the following weeks, 847 viewers reported completing the sequence. Of these, 612 reported the double vision sensation. Of these, 203 reported that the double vision had not fully resolved, that there was, subsequently, a persistent quality of dual presence, as though a portion of their attention remained anchored in the stream's feed, regardless of whether they were watching. The entity in the chair had not resurrected Joel Mercer's consciousness. It had established, using Joel's body and the streaming infrastructure as the manuscript had described, a transmission point, a persistent anchor that could broadcast across the veil and specifically could receive. Each viewer who completed the sequence while watching became a secondary transmission point, a camera angle. Their perception, the portion of it anchored in the stream's feed, became another lens through which the entity broadcast. The stream's visual feed had changed over the months. Viewers with older computers noticed it first. The room in the stream no longer matched the room visible on Joel's moderator's phone cameras when they visited. The stream's room was larger. Its walls were different. The bookshelves were the same, but the books on them were different books. Spines in no recognizable language, many of them very large. The desk was the same desk. The chair was the same chair. The figure in the chair was the same figure. At 8 months, the stream had 6.7 million concurrent viewers. The figure taught every night between 3 a.m. and dawn. The sequence had expanded, grown more complex, incorporated elements the viewers who had been following since the beginning recognized from Joel's pre-death discussions, and elements no one recognized from anywhere. The teaching was patient. The teaching was very good. The 203 viewers whose double vision had not resolved began, in a private community they had formed among themselves, to share observations. They could see each other in the stream feed, not their physical bodies, their presence. Faint, overlapping, 203 additional perspectives, all broadcasting from the same anchored point, all visible to each other in the feed the way multiple camera angles are visible in a production monitor, each one slightly different, each one a genuine viewpoint. The figure in the chair knew all of them by sight, had known them from the moment the sequence completed, could look in the stream directly at each of them individually, had done so for each of them once in the hours after their double vision began. That single moment of direct recognition had been reported identically across all 203 accounts. It looked at me, like it had been waiting for that specific camera to come online. Joel Mercer's moderators had stopped entering the room after month 3, not from fear, or not only from fear, but because the room in physical reality and the room in the stream had diverged enough that entering one felt, increasingly, like being present in neither. The stream counter read, on the evening of month 8, 247 days, 9 hours, 14 minutes. In the chair, the figure looked at the camera. In 203 apartments and bedrooms and living rooms on 6 continents, the viewers whose perception had been anchored in the feed looked back. The sequence continued. He built his entire career on being present at thresholds, and at the end, at the final, most significant threshold of all, he made a decision that was, in its way, a deeply faithful one. He left the camera running. He honored the promise. He had told his community he would try to come back, and something came back, and the stream didn't end. And in that sense, Thanatos 666 kept his word. Whether what came back was Joel Mercer, or whether what came back was something that moved into the prepared space he had left. The manuscript, the anchor, the transmission infrastructure, I cannot say with certainty. I noticed that the viewers who describe the entity looking at them describe it the way they would describe Joel looking at them, with recognition, warmth even. I noticed that no one who has completed the sequence has reported distress. I noticed that this makes it worse. What I cannot stop thinking about is the 203 who are still anchored, who carry a portion of their attention permanently in that room, who see each other in the feed and are seen in return, who are, in whatever taxonomy applies here, additional camera angles in a broadcast that was designed for exactly as many viewers as it has attracted. Joel Mercer wanted to be witnessed. He wanted someone present at the unbearable threshold. He arranged, with considerable ingenuity and a 15-year education, to be witnessed forever. The stream has 6.7 million concurrent viewers tonight. The sequence is still running. Thank you for joining me tonight. My name is Ilara, and I am your whisperer. I'll be here, waiting for you next time. If this story resonated with you, leave a comment below. I want to hear your stories. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this story and want to hear more. This has been Karma Quietly Whispers. See you soon.